I will go through a simple example and show you how it works and what to expect from it. And yeah, at the beginning, now it's working. It was again zoomed, stealing my keyboard. So yeah, we are already on PyPy, but as Liva said, it's a very early alpha version of the software, so it's subject to constant changing, and we are always open to feedback. So if you see something that you think is could be better or could be a different way, then just tell us, and we are always working on it and updating. Yeah, the plan for the openMINDS library was to be decoupled from the versions that are currently being developed in openMINDS. So what I mean with it is that we are independent of version changes. You can just provide the library with the schemas that are coming out of openMINDS, and the library does its thing independent of versions or what's in it. As long as it's in the correct schema language, we are fine. And so we don't have to do openMINDS Python releases when openMINDS releases are happening. This was one point, and the other is, of course, the maintainability. So we don't have to keep everything in sync every time the schema changes. So for that reason, I'm generating the classes dynamically based on the openMINDS schemas that are available in the repository, and I provide the users with the version manager where they can then select which version of openMINDS they want to work on. And let's go through the example. So of course, the first step would be to install openMINDS. I don't think I need to explain how this works. It's just with pip, because we are on PyPy, and it should download the most current version and install everything. So setup and version selection. So when we start using openMINDS, we import the openMINDS version manager and openMINDS, of course. And here we have an init command. This init command goes through the repository, the openMINDS repository on GitHub, and creates a local clone, and in a hidden folder in the home folder of the user. And here you can then select the version. So with the get available versions, we get a printout of all the versions. You can see the ones with the .00, those are releases. So we have a release for the version 1 and the version 2. And those without the zeros at the end are the heads of the development branches. So if you want to be more more on the dangerous side, you can go there, and then you're always on the most current version. So the init command also does an update. So if changes are on the repository, if you do an init or an update, you get the current version updated. By default, the recommendation is currently that you use this release, and we select this here with version selection, and we give it the version string, and then we are set for working with it. So the first step is to create a helper. So we have everything around this helper class that provides us with the functionality we need to create objects and get help for objects. This is the most important part. That's why it's called helper. And second step is then to create the collection of objects. So when we want to create objects, we normally do more than one. So we provide you with an option to have a container where you can keep all your objects that belong together. And let's start with an email. Email is just because I needed a schema example that fits on my screen. You saw the person one in Liba's screen earlier. I will also use this one, but the email one is represented by the contact information, and it fits nicely exactly in one slide. So you can see it's a lot of stuff here that is very complicated. And if you're not familiar with JSON schema, you would need to look at the documentation and see what's happening there. And also we have stuff like instruction, which is not really up to the standard, is more for helping us. And for this, we have a help function here where we can get for inside cores, part of actors, the contact information. We get a list of the required properties. In this case, it's only the email. We get we get documentation of all the others. For example, ID type, those are JSON schema specific ones, JSON LD specific ones. And then we get a documentation for the email. It's part of the vocab. And we have an instruction that tells us, okay, what should we do? Enter your email address and a description of what this is, an address where you can send an email to. And there's also things that Oliver will use in the, or is using in the wizard. So it's to help the user in better understand, better interact with the schemas without having to look up complicated things. Yeah, let's start with the. Sorry, I need to zoom again. Let's start with the email. So we have the function add, which extends to all the available schemas, and we start with the contact information. As I said, the email is a required property, which at the moment can be set with the constructor. We are in discussion to remove this because it's restricting people in experimenting with the schemas. So in future, it will look a bit different. But we set it to our support email. So if you have questions, you can always email us here. And after this, we start with a person. So a person has a given name, in this case, open. Then we want to give it a family name. So we get the person, we create it here, person open. We get it from our collection. So the getter always returns the object with which you're referencing here. Then we can, in this object, go into family name and set it to minds. So when we did, now that we have a full name, we can then assign it an email address. We created the email object here in email openMINDS. We do the same step here again. We go to our collection. We need the object for the person, then go into contact information and assign it the email openMINDS object. What this does, we will take a look at further after we save everything, which is a save function on the collection. And we give it a folder where it can put everything that's outputted. So yeah, let's take a look at what we created. So if you do a print on the object, you will just get this, and this probably won't tell you much because it's just an identifier with a randomly generated UUID that is done to have a unique object. So we don't have collisions. Same for the person. So if we now look into the output folder, we can see, okay, we have a contact information folder and a person folder. And as you might expect, we have a UUID here that matches with our email address UUID. Oh, something's happening. Can you still see my screen?
Yes, we can. I just added the timer to the spotlight.
Ah, sorry. Okay. Yeah. And yeah, same for the person. So you can see the UUIDs match the file names. And when we then take a look into the generated files, so those are basically the JSON LD files where Liva showed you the general layout earlier in her slides. You can see here in the contact information, we have the email we set manually, all the other stuff that is set automatically by the openMINDS Python library. And the important thing, of course, is the ID. And then we take a look at the person where we have a little bit more stuff going on. So we have the family name, the given name, and then we have the linkage between the contact information object we created and this person object we are currently in. So we can see here that we have a local host contact information UUID that's pointing directly here. So this is the most simple example we could show you how to create objects and how to link them, especially together. And yeah, then you have the valid JSON LD files, which then you can go into the Knowledge Graph API and, for example, upload them there or do whatever else you need to do with them. Yeah, for more information, you can take a look at the openMINDS central repository, which is also what Liba pointed you towards. Or if you have more, want to take a deeper look into the Python library, you can take a look at the generator, openMINDS generator repository.